All right, today's warm-up question is, what is an unpopular opinion that you hold, or what is something that you think is overrated that everybody else loves? And you are not going to like mine. Mine is Chick-fil-A sauce. I absolutely love Chick-fil-A. Not hating on Chick-fil-A, but I'm just not a huge fan of Chick-fil-A sauce. I think Chick-fil-A ranch is where it's at. So if you're in person, share with your neighbor. If you are online, comment. Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our triangle congruence. Here is a reference sheet of all of our shortcuts that work to prove triangles congruence. When I say shortcut, I mean instead of having to go S, 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 A, these are the 5 combinations of things that you are able to check that immediately, boom, prove triangles congruent. So I call them my core 4 plus 1. We'll talk a lot about that in class. Here are my core 4, made up of S's and A's. And then here's my plus 1. My plus 1 is only for right triangles. Okay, so we started to talk about this yesterday, and then here is a continuation of this. That reference sheet is going to be so helpful. We'll make this list over and over and over again. But at first, I call this first shortcut my Slytherin shortcut because it's all S's, SSS. It's kind of like a snake. And so it's where you have 3 pairs of congruent sides. So you have one set marked as congruent, a second set, and a third set. So there are no angles marked, but boom, immediately these triangles will be congruent to each other because all 3 pairs of sides are congruent. So when that happens, the triangles are congruent by the shortcut SSS. So we didn't even have to use any of the A's here, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's just a shortcut. Lets you check less things because life is short. Okay, so then we also, our next one is the sassy one. This is one that reminds me of my daughter. Sass is where you have 2 sides marked, and then you have an included angle. And remember that that included angle means it's sandwiched in between those 2 sides that are marked. And so this would be the SAS shortcut. Okay, the reverse of that, if I played the Uno reverse card right now on that, the reverse of SAS would be ASA. So where that side is happening in the middle of the 2. And so this would be where it has 2 angles. So one angle, second angle. And then that side is going to be sandwiched in between those 2 angles. So this one side is touching both of those angles. This one side is touching both of those angles. And so when those congruence marks are there, you could prove those triangles congruent because 2 angles and an included side are congruent. And then this last one is very similar. It still has 2 angles, but the side is no longer listed in the middle. The side is going to be listed last. So that's where 2 angles, just like before. So 2 angles, I'm going to go back to my orange color. Actually, I'll stay with purple. Well, we're going to stay with purple. So 2 angles, here and here, here and here. I still have my angles marked just like before, but instead of that side being included, it's the awkward third wheel. It's listed last. So it doesn't matter where you put it. You're just going to put it off to the side. It doesn't matter if you do it on this set, or if you could do this set, it's totally fine as well. It's just awkwardly off to the side. It's not happening in between, so it's non-included. So those are called my core 4. I call it the core 4 plus 1. You'll get used to making that list. We'll do this a lot in class. The slither one is always what I start with, and then I go sassy, just like my daughter, and then I reverse it. I have twins, and Ellie is very sassy, and Jay is like the total reverse of her, so that just reminds me to reverse it, ASA, and then I have where that one is listed last. No, so these are the core 4, and then we have our plus 1, which is right triangles. We'll make this list at the top of almost every single sheet of paper that we get this unit, and as soon as you get your quiz, write this down. As soon as you get your test from memory, write this down, because these are my shortcuts that do work. Notice that ASS is not one of my shortcuts, nor is SSA. So what are the ones that don't work? The one that spells a bad word, so it's easy to remember, forwards and backwards. SSA or ASS, that is not one of my shortcuts. And then AAA is also not one of my shortcuts. AAA is great when you lock your keys in your car, but not so much for proving triangles congruent. So the ones that do work, the ones that get the blue verified check mark are these 5, and the ones that do not work are the red ones. And so we're actually going to start practicing that. We are going to jump around a lot in class on this. I'm going to let y'all try a lot of these on your own. So don't feel like we're going to do every single one of these problems, but this really is an extension of what we did the other day with practicing. So now we're going to be looking at 2 triangles, and it says, let's use our reference sheet to determine whether each set of triangles would be congruent or if there's not enough information. If they are congruent, we're going to write a congruence statement. If not, we're going to leave that blank. And so the first thing I notice, and the first thing I always ask myself is, are these triangles touching? Because just like yesterday, There are always going to be marks that are already there. Those are pre-done for you. Those are tattooed. Sometimes we can add information, though, based on how they're touching. So the first thing I notice is that these two triangles are touching each other, triangle 1 and triangle 2, and they're overlapping in the middle at a side. So I get to actually mark that. That blue piece would be present in both of those. And then I have 2 angles here. So as far as looking at both of these pictures, I have an angle, side angle sandwich on each of them. This angle is marked the same as this one, and then we have that overlapping side, and this angle is marked the same as this one. So we would say, yes, that is one of my core 4. Remember, it is side, side, side. That's the snake one. Sassy, S-A-S, A-S-A, A-A-S, and then my plus 1 is H-L, but again, that's only for right triangles. So I would know I didn't even need to check H-L on this one because there's no right angle marked. And so this is one of my core 4. So yes, these triangles are congruent by ASA. And if they name, whenever we want to fill in this statement is saying, hey, these triangles are congruent. So who is the exact same order as saying angle ALB? ALB goes from the letter that has no marks to the angle that has 1 to the one that has 2. So if we want to name that the exact same way, we would go MLB. The one that has 1, or the one that has none, to the one that has 1, to the one that has 2. Why is that important? Because when I'm saying that these triangles are congruent, A is the exact same angle as angle M. And so we have to put the pieces in their corresponding positions. Okay, let's go to the next one. I love this one. This one's easy to see. Yes, they're overlapping. Yes, they're touching. Where are they touching? They are touching at a side, so I get to add a side marking here. And then I notice that I have 1 and 1. I've got 2 and 2. And then I've got 3 and 3. So this is my Slytherin shortcut by side, side, side. That is one of my core 4. And so these triangles are going to be congruent. If they name the first triangle KJP, K to J to P, they want to cross the one with 2 and then across the one with 3. We need to name it the same way. So across the one with 2 and then to 3 would be B, P, J. So those triangles are in fact congruent by side, side, side without knowing anything about their angles. All right, let's keep going. So I go here, and what I first notice that these triangles are not touching. Since these triangles are not touching, I'm not going to be able to add any information. There's going to be no overlaps. So I just have to mark what's there. And on one triangle, I have a side, and then an angle, and an angle. On the other triangle, I have that same blue side, those same 2 yellow angles, but on one of the triangles, it is angle, angle, side. Okay, that works. So, and then on the other triangle, let's double check. L matches N, so angle, angle, side. So I would be able to use that shortcut. That is an angle, and a non-included side, so AAS. That is one of my core 4, AAS. It's this last one right there. And so these triangles are going to be congruent to each other. I can say MNO. MNO goes no marks, 2 marks, 1 mark. So no marks, 2 marks, and then 1 mark would be no marks, 2 marks, and then 1 mark. J to K to L. So we're just making sure that we name those triangles the exact same way. All right, on number 4, I hope you're already getting alarm bells in your head because what I see is 2 right angles. So I'm kind of wondering, would it be HL possibly? And they are overlapping, so I know I'm going to be checking for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my highlighter and highlight the side that they are overlapping at. This side is present in both of those triangles. I'm going to mark it with 2 instead of just 1 because 1 has already been used. And so I'm going to check to see, can I use HL? So whenever we want to use HL, first we have to figure out, are they right triangles? Which, boom, they contain right angles, so yes, they're right triangles. Then, do I have a hypotenuse congruent to a hypotenuse? Remember, the hypotenuse is the longest side that falls across from the right angle. So I've got my right angles. That's good information. Now I've got a hypotenuse congruent to a hypotenuse, so that's a blue check mark. And then I also have a leg congruent to a leg, which is in this picture, that is one of the legs. That is marked as congruent to one of these legs. So yes, these triangles are congruent by HL. So I can say that triangle PLI, let's see how they do that. P to L to I. So across the long side with none to the one with 1, that would be IEP. IEP. All right, so we did the first 4 together in class, and so now we're going to kind of start jumping around because I feel like y'all get the hang of this, and I'll let you try some of them on your own. Feel free to pause the video if you're watching this online, and then click play and see how you did. So I'm going to go to number 5, then I'll probably start going to some odds and some evens based on what I like and what I want y'all to see. Okay, so these are overlapping at point Y. So since they're overlapping at point Y, immediately I know that I get to add some information. I get to add vertical angles to this picture. So even though I had sides marked before, now I'm getting to add a set of vertical angles. And so when I go to look at this, what is there now, I've got an angle marked congruent to an angle, and then I have 2 sides. And unfortunately, that angle is not included or between those 2 sides. So when I go to list it, that would be SSA. SSA is not one of my shortcuts. And so since it's not one of my core 4, one of this group of things, what you would do is you would just say not enough information. NEI stands for not enough information. I don't have a shortcut to use, which means that these triangles are not necessarily congruent to each other. We're not going to say that they're not congruent. If I added more information, then I might be able to say that they're congruent, but at this time, we'd need more information. It's kind of like when you ask your parents if you can go to somebody's house, and they don't say no, but they have some more questions. They want to know who's going to be there, how long will you be there, will it be parents' home, etc. So they're not saying no, they just need more information before they say yes. All right, these triangles are not touching, so I can't add any information, so I just have to go with what's there. There is a side and a side, 2 sides marked as congruent to each other, but unfortunately that's it. And side is not one of my shortcuts, and so what we would do is, again, we just write not enough information. We would need to know more before we said yes. All right, let's go here. This one, they are touching, they're overlapping at A to M. A to M is a side, and so now I've got 2 sides marked the same with the angle in between marked the same. That is a side angle side sandwich. That is one of my core 4, and so I get to say that these triangles are congruent to each other. GMA would be named the same as IMA. G to M to A, I to M to A. So we're just naming those the same way. All right, number 8 is easiest to see. I love number 8 because on number 8, I get to go ahead and boom, add the side in the middle where they overlap. I don't have any angles marked, but fortunately I do have some sides marked, so this becomes my Slytherin shortcut, SSS. And so these triangles are going to be congruent to each other because triangle GFH. Let's go G to F to H. So across the one with 1 mark with side and then to 2, so that'd be GIH. So this is just going to be a reflection. All right, I'm going to do 1 or 2 more with y'all just so that you can see a few different examples, and then I can put the answer key up later if anybody needs it. One of my favorite to see is this bow tie one, number 15. It makes it really easy to see that whenever these overlap at R, we've got vertical angles. The sandwich ones are the easiest to see for some reason for me. It's because you can see the included ones are happening right there in the middle. And so for me, that's just one of the easy shortcuts to identify. That would be side angle side. That is my sassy one. Now, you have to be careful when you name this because you can tell that this has been reflected. The reason I know that is because this is marked with 1 and then this is marked with 1, so it's been turned. And so when I go QRP, that goes across the one with 1 and then across the one with 2, we're going to have to go TRS, across the one with 1 and then across the one with 2. So that's like my bow tie. Okay? And then I wanted to do one where it has the parallel lines. You know that they don't do the parallel lines for funsies. If you watched the video from before, if you listened to the lesson the other day, you know that anytime they add these parallel lines, they do it for a reason so that you can add some alternate interior angles. So these triangles are here, which just indicates that this side is parallel to this side. And there is more than one way to, more than one shortcut you can put here. And so when we said when that happens, what you're going to do is you're going to connect that triangle to the transversal. So it says start here and add an angle here. That is going to be congruent to this one right here. Okay? Those 2 angles are congruent because they're alternate interior. And then I could also add vertical angles if I wanted to. And so that shortcut would be angle, angle, side. I believe the way that this one worked, we could even do third angles theorem and do way more than one shortcut because I had some other sides marked as well. But as soon as you have one shortcut, you can stop there. The whole point is to prove the triangle's congruent. So when they say triangle ABC, that goes from 1 to none to 2. 1 to none to 2 would be D, to none would be E, and then C. DEC. All right, last but not least, I'm going to do, what am I feeling? I'm feeling number 16. Okay, number 16, these are overlapping, and immediately I know they're overlapping, so I can add this side. But that is just an angle and a side. That is a single angle from this one. Hold on, here we go. Sorry, y'all, got to grab the highlighter. Here's a single angle from this one congruent to a single angle from this one, and then a side in the middle. Unfortunately, angle side is not one of my shortcuts. And I can't add anything else because there's no parallel lines, there's nothing else. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say not enough information to prove these triangles congruent. So if you would like to see the key, feel free to email me, and I can send you the rest of these. But y'all's homework is going to be to work on some of these problems. There's only 12, but just like anything in life, this is going to take some practice. I don't think it will take you long, and we will go over that tomorrow. I hope you are having a fabulous